So now you are the most popular person on the campus, most popular person in the company. You are a very likable person. But that's not going to be the only thing you're going to need to be a great leader. Now, I'm not tooting my own horn when I say I was typically always the most popular kid in the class, or one of, in the school, or one of, in the community, or one of. But that's not what made me find success with my business. And that's not what gives success to great leaders. It's not what makes them successful. It's not the reason that we share their names or that they have household names, especially in business. Successful companies that are run by great leaders are not just because they're likable people. It's definitely one of the reasons, but it's not the only reason. So I wanted to summarize a perspective from a man named Simon Sinek, who I believe is absolutely brilliant with the content he puts out. He created something called the Golden Circle. You've probably heard of it. If you haven't, let's talk about it. The Golden Circle. It's one of the most single differentiators between companies that are leading the way and by the companies that are doing the norm. The Golden Circle. I want you to picture 3 circles. One small circle in the middle, another circle around that, and then a bigger circle around that. So 3 circles. It kind of looks like a target or a dartboard, target logo. And in the middle, the smallest circle, Simon Sinek put the word why. On the next, or the medium-sized circle around that, it says how. And on the outer circle, the biggest circle, it says what. So from the middle, we had why, how, and what on the outside. And he said, these circles and these phrases represent how most companies think and perform, and you could use it vice versa. Impactful companies with great leaders, great companies, the largest companies, the most successful companies, they also think using these 3 terms. So what's the difference? He said a company who's doing the norm would often start, and when we say start, we're talking about their marketing, their mission, their material, their product, everything that they do for their company and their company message would follow this guide. They ask themselves, what? What do we do or what do we sell? Insert the product, the service. Second thing they ask themselves is that second circle, how? We know what we sell. We sell tea. We sell coffee. We sell headphones. We know what we sell. How are we going to sell it? Insert through these marketing campaigns and advertisements and social media posts and in other forms of advertising and marketing. That's how we're going to sell it. Opening stores and retail outlets, pop-up shops, e-commerce websites. They figure that out. And lastly, if at all, they ask themselves, why? And to be honest, most of the times they don't. So what and how is what most companies, think about the company you're building, that you're intending to build. You start with a product, you start with a service, and then you think about, how do I get it out to the masses? So what makes the difference between companies that are great that are run by leaders or great leaders, companies that have the vision like Apple, they think differently. No pun intended. You see, the normal company, company A, that asks themselves what, how, and maybe sometimes why, when they put an ad out there, Simon Sinek said, it would sound something like this. What? Computers. Or let's go with cars. What? The new Toyota Corolla. How? Come to our new sales event launching in spring to get your 30% discount off our latest models. That's what an advertisement would sound like from a company who's working from the outside in. But companies like Apple start from the smallest circle. Why? They ask themselves why. They tell us why. Then they tell us how. And then they tell us what. So an advertisement, a campaign, a marketing campaign from Apple, Simon Sinek said, would sound something like this. Why? Because we believe in innovation and ingenuity and thinking different. How? By challenging the norm and creating products that stimulate our minds and liberate our creativity. What? The new 2020 MacBook Pro. We only hear about the product at the end. We only hear about the service at the end, after they've convinced us, after they've let us know why they're doing this and how they're accomplishing this, then they tell us what. And it creates the difference between customers and fans. Customers who will buy the product or the service, fans who will follow the mission, follow the company, and adapt the culture. This is the golden circle. You want to build an impactful company, an impactful business? You want to be a great leader? Start with why. Then you work on how. And then produce the what. The golden circle. Next, we want to talk about what I like to call the trust battery. And you could picture that little icon of a cell phone battery. When it's fully charged, it has all the bars. When it's losing power, the bars start to go down. And when it's dying, there's one blinking bar left. I like to think of communication that way. Strong communication and strong communicators, they keep us fully charged, fully engaged, fully attentive to what they're saying, what they're doing, and where they're going. Not so strong communicators have us dwindling and dwindling and going lower and lower and losing charge, blinking, and in some cases we feel like we want to die. If you've ever been to a not so interesting keynote presentation or speech, lecture, you're like that blinking battery, waiting to fall asleep. Your eyes start blinking just like that battery. You need something to charge you up. Great leaders are great communicators most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. Communication is so important when leading people, because that's how they're going to get to where they're going. That's how you're going to get to where you're going. Communication. So the more we deviate in our communication, the more we're going to deviate on our path, on our journey. The more our business focus is going to deviate, because we could never communicate what we were trying to do in the first place. We could never communicate where we're trying to go. Where are you trying to go? You start a business, but you don't know where you're trying to go. Or you do know where you're trying to go, but you can't communicate it to your customers, to your team, to your suppliers, to your distributors, to your audience. When I first started out speaking, I used to start my presentation and try to break the ice in the beginning and just follow my agenda in my head. Get through the presentation, sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes longer. It wasn't until 4 or 5 years into being a public speaker that I realized from the outset, I have to let the audience know where we're going so they could follow along. Give them the agenda, the discussion topics. Today we're going to talk about this, that, and so on. So from the outset, from the beginning, they know who they're following, what they're following, and what to expect. Communication. I often do this exercise when I facilitate workshops. It's called Tell Me What You Know. Ask for 3 volunteers to come up on the stage and take a second or take a minute to think about something that they know. They really know. They know everything about. It could be their clothes in their closet. It could be the color of their room. It could be a food, a certain food or diet plan or TV show. Whatever it is that you claim you know. And you're going to talk about it. You're going to tell us about it. You're going to communicate it to us. You have 60 seconds to tell us what you know. That seems easy enough. They all shrug. The only stipulation to this is if you deviate or stop or say any if you break the communication, then the audience is going to stop you. We're going to yell out, "Stop!" And we're going to time you and see how long you can talk about what you know. Go ahead. First person starts off. Today we're going to talk about running shoes. Stop! The audience is so happy to say stop. The audience stops them. They're shocked and surprised. Like, oh my goodness. Time? 3 seconds. Give them a round of applause. They have a seat. Second person, now a little more aware of the rules and how to play, gets ready. Says, today I'm going to talk about the sport basketball. Basketball is a very skillful sport. And in this sport, there are 2 teams. And stop! Congratulations, 12 seconds. Third person really gives it all they got. I think in 6 years, only 2 or 3 people have ever completed a minute or went on beyond 1 minute. So what's the point? When I speak, I should never deviate. I should never say I should never say Is perfection the point, Daniel? No, perfection is not the point. But when we say we know something, it's expected that we would limit the deviations. It's expected that we would speak with clarity, we would speak with knowledge. Often, the participants speak fast and try to get as much information out in that 1 minute as they can, and that's what causes the break in communication. I never said speak fast or speak quickly.